Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to do something a little bit different and something that I have been looking forward to ever since I saw It's Just Steph do this, and that is ranking my eyeshadow palettes. And it's not just going to be any ranking video. I'm going to do the ultimate battle between my eyeshadow palettes. So we're going to have 4 parts, or maybe 5, where I randomize 2 palettes at a time. We talk about them, and then I rank them, and the ones ranking the highest, they move on to the next round. And the ones ranking the lowest, they are kicked out of this battle. So 10 rounds means 20 palettes that we're going to talk about today. So let's randomize the 2 first palettes. So the first one that we are going to rank is... It's the Natasha Denona Retro palette. That's a new one, but I've actually very soon finished my No Pen Left Behind on that, so that's nice. I know a little bit about it anyway. We'll see how I rank these things, guys, because I think sometimes it will be based on a color story, sometimes it will be on the formula, sometimes it will be just my preference. So you know, this can turn out anyway. I haven't done it before, like I said. So the retro palette is going up against the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde. Oh, this isn't fair. We're taking 2 very nice palettes, and I have to choose between them, which means a very good palette will be rolling out, and maybe it will go up against something really, you know, much lower ranked in the future. But yeah. Let's talk about them. Now we are starting out strong with 2 really nice palettes. One is the Retro palette from Natasha Denona and the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde. I really like both of these. This one is the newest palette in my collection, the Retro palette, like I said. And honestly, when I got this, I was a little bit... not even a little disappointed. I was really disappointed because this looks so dark. When I saw other people swatch this, when I saw it on the website, I didn't feel like it was as dark as it is in reality. So I was really disappointed. But after having done a No Pen Left Behind on this, or almost, I'm almost done, and having used some of these shades several times, I just feel like this is a really nice palette and I can use it for an everyday look. It doesn't have to turn out too bold. Even if it looks like it will be bold, I can use this just a little dot, you know, in the outer corner, and then go in with Go Go. Is actually a really nice shade. I didn't think I would like that one. And then a light shimmer. I just love it. So this one is definitely a really nice palette. And then when we move on to the Huda Beauty palette, this is one of the best color stories I've seen ever. I think it's like the top 5 most beautiful palettes in my collection. And as much as I love the color story, I feel like the last time I used it, it was hard to come up with looks. I felt like several of these shades don't really go too well together. Like they go together so well, like this. But when I swatch them, when I have them on my eyes, they don't really go together that well. Like you can create some really good looks. I like the formula, everything like that. But I feel like it's harder to create looks. Maybe it's because it's a little bit older, but it's not that old. So I don't know. I feel like this offers a lot more variety than this one. But I think... it's hard. It's a really hard one because I feel like this one is so much more unique than this one, but on the other hand, I don't really have these shades in my collection somewhere else either. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I feel like maybe I should go with this one, partly because it's newer. Like if I had to choose one, because that's what it comes down to right now, because these are both phenomenal products. If I had to only keep one, I would probably keep this one because I know that this works. This one I am struggling with just a bit, so I feel like this one is easier to use right now. So this one is winning this round, and it hurts me to say that this is Not even going to a second round. It feels unfair because this is one of my favorite palettes as well. Okay, let's move on. Now the second round, let's spin. This round will be between which palettes? It's going to be between the Oden's Eye Elva 2 Mini Sky palette. Oh, I forgot to hide the slice. Well, let's hope we won't get the same palettes. And we get the ZZ Papyrus palette. Let's talk about them. The next two palettes are these two. So the Mini Sky palette from Oden's Eye and the Papyrus palette from ZZ. Now ZZ always has this stunning packaging. It looks like an Egyptian theme on this one. But I mean, it's so heavy. It's so, it feels luxurious, really. And it feels like it would break if I dropped it. But the color story in this one looks like this. So you do have some neutrals in here, but you can definitely do some different kinds of look. I feel like this is more of a fall palette, let's say. And then that is up against this Elva 2 Mini Sky palette from Oden's Eye. And this is the color story. And to be honest, if I had to declutter like 10 palettes, I think this would be among the ones that I decluttered. Not because I don't like the shades, but I don't love them on me. So this definitely comes down to a personal preference. And I mean, I like the formula of Oden's Eye, but I think this was lacking for me. Like, I don't feel like these shades really go too well together either. So the color story throws me off. I also don't like mattes with shimmer in them. Like, I don't get it. I've never heard anyone speak well of those kinds of shades. So why do brands keep throwing them into palettes? Like this one, it would have been a nice matte, but they have shimmers in here. I don't like that. This is a brown with shimmers. I don't like that. I don't feel like they show up too much on the eyes, but I also don't feel like it's a matte. So it's just a weird, it's a weird in between that I don't necessarily like. So this one will be rolling out, and this one will move on to the next round. Round number 3. We have the ZZ Scarab palette. We're going to hide the slice. And it's up against the Magical Memories from P. Louise. Let's grab those. Okay, so this next one will not be hard to rank at all, which is nice. It's nice when you have like easier decisions to make. Let's start off with this. A serving of Magical Memories. This is from P. Louise, and it's a warm tone brown palette. A little bit of a coppery feel to this one, but you guys know what I think about warm browns on me. They don't really work too well. I used this one and the other one. I think the other one was maybe, it was either lighter or darker, but I can't make a good look with just one of them. I used both of them, all of the shades, and I also had to bring in lighter shades to make it work for me. And it became so beautiful, but I can't use it on its own. Also, the packaging, like this part easily goes off. And I haven't even had this for a half year yet. Or maybe it's going on a half year or something, but this has broken on me several times. Like the glue is loosening up and stuff. I don't like it that much. Also, I got a big palette in the same advent calendar that I got this in, and that one contains kind of all of these shades. So I don't know why we got like 2 small palettes with the same shades that are in the big one. Like I don't particularly like that one, so yeah, I don't think we will let that move on to the next round. But let's talk about the next palette, which is the Scarab palette from ZZ. Again, it's the same format, same size, same luxurious packaging, and this one I liked so much more than the other one, I think. No, it's not this one. Or is it? No, it's not this one. I thought this was, oh, it's the Cobra one I like. But, you know, I haven't really used this that much. I think I had this for pen those eyeshadows maybe. Yeah, I don't think I've had this for No Pen Left Behind or like a level up project. I thought I had, but I don't think so because they don't really look like I've used them. So I basically used the panned eyeshadows there. And they're nice. I like the formula and I definitely like it better than I like the Magical Memories little quad from P. Louise. Nothing bad against P. Louise. I love the formula, but the color story and, you know, the fact that she doesn't go lighter or darker in the palette, it just threw me off. I don't like those forms of palettes. So this one will also be moving on to the next round. Let's move on to the fourth round and let's spin the palettes. And this time it's going to be the sleek Garden of Eden palette. Oh, I really like that one, but it is broken, unfortunately. So we'll see what that is up against. The Garden of Eden palette is up against the ZC Palace Identity palette. Okay, okay. So the two palettes look like this, and I know which packaging is winning. I mean, all day long this will win. Wait until you see the actual palette because it is stunning. If you haven't seen this before, it's from ZC. It's in the collection Palace Identity. Oh, it looks so luxurious. It looks so Chinese, like that aesthetic. I love that. So take a look at that because it's gorgeous, like packaging wise. Nice. Also, I like these shades. They don't look the best on me, but just looking at this makes me happy. A little bit nervous to get them in like a Pando's eyeshadow session or something, but you know, as far as the aesthetic goes, as far as the color scheming goes, it's gorgeous. Oh, it's so nice. However, this sleek palette, the Garden of Eden palette, it also contains browns and greens. And unfortunately the packaging broke and yeah, I'm not really using it right now. I think I will have to you know, have some tape over so nothing can fall into this. But anyway, I did have this for I think 50 Shades of Green, and I hit pan on all of the greens, or these green shimmers here in the middle and this like light matte as well. And I love these green shimmers. I feel like they're very wearable, but those are kind of the only shades I like in here though, because these do not really show up purpley like they look in the pans. So yeah, and then we have some warmer toned browns as well. So the only thing that would keep this going is the fact that these greens are in here. If I would declutter this, I would probably take out these greens and repress them into somewhere else. As much as it pains me that this won't move on, because I genuinely love those greens, I think the ZZ palette will win. Even though this is more wearable, I would use this a lot more than I would the ZZ one. But I mean, it's gotta win. Look at it. It's so pretty. So this one is rolling out and let's move on. The fifth round. We have the Sunkissed Champagne Eyes. Okay. That was a long time since I used actually. And it's going to compete with the Snow Dream from Odin's Eye. That's one of my favorite palettes. Oh, no spoilers. Now this round isn't really fair. I mean, my favorite palette up against a cheap brand, something like if this was up against, I don't know, a Natasha Denona palette, or like the Huda Beauty palette, or you know, one of those favorites, that would be hard. This one is just a little bit sad because I really enjoyed this when I used this for my Level Up project pan, and it was very easy to use these shades. I love the color story, the shimmers are nice. I do like this one for an everyday use, but I like this so much more. Look at this color story. I mean, Have you ever seen something this gorgeous? I think maybe the packaging does something to the color scheming as well. But I mean, you can see that I have dips in several of the mattes, and that says something, especially when I didn't have to get those dips in the mattes. I did it on my own accord. I did it because I wanted to. But then I wanted to hit pan in a shadow as well, and I did. And it's such a nice palette, and there's something about it. It's so playful, and it feels like it's a neutral with pops of color. Even though I wouldn't say it's a neutral, but it feels like a neutral somehow. Maybe because it's so light. So it's kind of like with my eyes today. If I use something really light, it works. It works on an everyday basis. And I think why I wanted to go with a very light blue today is because I've been really, really into pastels since I tried this minty green shade here. And I was like, I need a pastel palette. And then I realized that I do have very light shades in, like, spread all over my palette. So I don't really need to buy one just because of that. And just because I like one shade doesn't mean that I will like every other pastel shade. And when I say pastel, I mean those really light pastels like this one. But this is hands down going to win this round. Let's move on. The ZC Honey Dream. And that one is up against... Da, 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 da. It's up against the Juvia's The Saharan palette. I haven't really used all of that palette. So is it going to be a fair ranking? Maybe not. But let's see. The Saharan by Juvia's looks like this. And I'm not sure that I've used all of the shades. I don't actually think so. I have a little pan in here. Yeah, I don't think I've used it that much. I think I have swatched it. And it's a nice palette. I just don't feel like I get inspired when looking at it. I don't feel like looking at each shade individually, I feel like, it's a pretty nice shade and maybe it would work and maybe I could do something with it. But these together, they don't really entice me. Let's take a look at the next palette here, the Honey Dream palette. And this packaging is gorgeous. As you can see, there's so much glitter in there that just falls down very slowly and seamlessly. Like, it's such a nice palette. Again, ZC knows what they're doing. And the color story looks like this. Now, I think this looks better on camera than it does in reality. When I saw this on their website, I was so excited to get this in my beauty box, or like the subscription box that I was having at the time. I was so happy that I would get this, but then when I got it, the shades look a little bit, I don't know, maybe it's because it's more warm toned than I thought it would be, but I don't love this palette as much as I wanted to love it. So the question is, which one is going to win? I mean, I would definitely use these shades over these, but I feel like this has a better formula. So if I would have to get rid of one, I would probably get rid of this just because it's harder for me to use. I don't get inspired, and this I could use for an everyday look. Like, at least I could pan maybe 2 of these shades, whereas I don't feel like there are any shades in here that I would want to use up, you know? I don't know. Let's say this is winning for this round. And then we don't have to make any more hard decisions here. Unless we get more hard decisions to come, of course. What are we at? The 7th round, maybe? I don't know. I've lost count. But let's randomize a few more rounds. And this time it's going to be the ZC Small Cat palette going up against the Christmas Eve palette from Odin's Eye. And what do you know, we got 2 very, very different palettes. One is a quad, one is a 16 pan palette. And it's so easy to choose between these 2 guys. I mean, look at this. This actually looks like a dupe from Charlotte Tilbury, but I don't really like these shades. There's nothing too sparkly about it. It's nothing like you can deepen up your looks. It doesn't go like, it's just a nah palette. I can use it, but it's a little bit too warm, a little bit too nah for me, because the only real shimmer they have in here, it's not that sparkly. They have like a satin goldy brown mess of a color. Like, I don't really like this, which is a little bit surprising because I do like the Charlotte Tilbury Exaggerate palette, which I feel like is very close to this, but the formula is, you know, way different. So this will definitely roll out. I don't even have to show you the other palette, I feel like. But of course, we're going to talk about that one as well, because I want to show it to you. Look at this one. It's gorgeous. Look at the packaging. I think the Christmas collection from Odin's Eye is stunning. Like, the packaging is stunning. It really screams Christmas, and they've really caught different aspects of winter and Christmas. Such a nice palette. This is called the Christmas Eve palette, and that is just what it looks like. It looks like Christmas Eve. So first of all, I mean, the packaging here, like around here, it's so cozy, it's so wintry. And then we close up on the shades, and of course it's a much more cool tone palette, which this year I've realized that I'm a cool tone person, which is why I'm going on and on about like something being a warm tone palette or a cool tone palette, because I realize now why I am drawn to some palettes and why some palettes look a lot better on me. It's because they're cool toned. Odin's Eye know what they're doing. The theming, the formula, the color story, how they're placed in here, I think they've done a phenomenal job. Except for proofreading. They're not very good at that, because several of these, I think 2 or 3 of the palettes had spelling mistakes on them. So on the outer packaging here on the back, let's read this one. This is called Lemon Tart. But if we look at the shade here, it's actually called Lemeb Tart. Lemeb Tart, yeah. So I've found several of these errors in the palettes, which is not great, but I forgive them because it's stunning. We're not done yet. Let's spin some more palettes to compete against each other. The first one being the Blend Away 2022 from P. Louise, and that one is competing against the next palette, which will be the Catrice Pro Peach Origin. Okay, so I haven't actually done a No Pan Left Behind on all of my palettes yet. So some of these I've, you know, used 1 or 2 shades in, so it's not going to be fair, guys. It's just not, but it is what it is. Let's get them. So let's bring in one of the biggest palettes I have in my collection, the P. Louise Blend Away 2022 and the Pro Peach Origins. This is from Catrice and this is from P. Louise, and they are both leaning towards, okay, I was wrong, towards pink. I felt like this was a pink palette, but it's much more neutral than I remembered. But you have like a more neutral side here, and then you have the darker tones here. I do like some of these shades. I definitely feel like I could use these for an everyday look. I wouldn't like to pan this whole thing because there are definitely some shades in here that I'm like, not liking that much, especially these darker shades. But I think the formula was okay, but it's not more than okay, I would say. Like, it's a good palette. If I had like a ranking scale from 1 to 10, this would probably be a 6, maybe. Like, it's a little bit more than average, I guess, which is 5. 5 is a normal, good palette, whatever. And then anything above the 5 is like, it's a good palette, but like maybe a 6 or 7 you could declutter, kind of. So I guess, you know, if I had to declutter, maybe this one would go. I don't know. Then we have the Blend Away 2022, the big one. It doesn't mean that that is a pro in all cases, but I have to say I have used a lot of these shades and I like it. This was the first P. Louise product that I tried. It's the first palette that I tried, And I gotta say, I am so impressed by the formula. I could build this up in my crease. I didn't feel like it went on too heavy to start with, but I could just build it up. And you do have your neutrals down here. I haven't really dug into that section yet. Oh, got it on my finger. But I have rather used this part here. The lighter shades and the pinks and the plum shades. I love it. Their shimmers are the most sparkliest shimmers I've ever tried. And the mattes, even though they're very hard pressed, which, you know, it might be good. That might be why they're so both blendable and buildable. It's not the best for a panner who wants to hit pan quickly, but you know, you get a lot for your money. Let's say that. So if you don't mind a big palette, which I don't, I like having all the shades readily available for me. And I mean, maybe there are a few shades in here that are a little bit repeating or, you know, unnecessary. I don't know. But I think she did a great job actually with this one. So this one is moving on. So we have 2 rounds left and we're going to spin the last palettes. First up, we have the Ciate London, I Am a Woman, What's Your Superpower? And that one, we're going to compare to the Candy Haze palette. That is my palette for this year. Now this one is going to be hard as well. We have I Am a Woman, What's Your Superpower by Ciate London, and we have Candy Haze from Makeup Revolution. This one is my palette for this year, and I love this so much. I love that it's light, because I could go with a light look every day of the year. I don't need too many deepen up shades in a palette. Like, give me one darker shade and I'm good. Also, it's very shimmer heavy. I think I had like 3 or 4 mattes in here from the beginning. This was a brown and this was a cream shade, and as you can see, I've used both of those up, and there are so many good shades in here. This one is my favorite. This is Sky. This is so creamy, so buttery. I feel like it's a different formula from everything else, but that's okay. We have some good shimmers to use as highlighters. The Tarte one, that was a brown, a very light brown. It went so well as a bronzer. Then Clouds, this one, this really light pink shimmer. It's such a nice shade to top off an eyeshadow look with, and used in the inner corners and all of that. So you have some variation. You have this purpley one, this green one. You have some variation in here, but most of it is very wearable, very easy to use. I love it a lot. But I also love the color story of this one. I don't love the packaging. Like, the packaging like this is good, but it feels like it should be a comic book feel to it. While all of the shade names are women from the past that should have done something good, but the shades, although they're very nice, I mean, look at that. Look at the shades. They're so beautiful. I love this color story. But it's very neutral, which is a little bit strange since all of these women have left a mark, you know. They should be colorful, they should be vibrant, they should, you know, represent the women, and then you come with something like this and I'm like thrown off. I just feel like it doesn't fit the theme, and that's why it's throwing me off. But every time I use this, I feel like it's such a nice palette. However, I do feel like they have a lot of warm tones in here. I feel like I don't really want to use this whole palette. I don't get as excited for this color story as the color story in this one. Maybe because, you know, there are so many shimmers, and this is a lot more light and also vibrant, I guess. So yeah, I would go with this one, which is good because I've had to use this whole year, so it's good that I like it, right? So this one, although I thought this would move on actually for another round, but this one is rolling out. C'est la vie. And last but not least, for the 10th round, we are rolling in 2 palettes more. we're rolling in the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette, which is also a new palette in my collection. I am almost done. I think I have one shade left in my No Pan Left Behind on that one. So I do know a little bit about it. And that one is going to compete against the Juvia's The Magic palette. This is really interesting. This has been a really interesting round, I have to say. So let's talk about it. So I have the last palettes here. We have the Magic by Juvia's Place and the I Need a Nude by Natasha Denona. I thought I would use the I Need a Nude palette so much, which I am because I am trying to do a No Pan Left Behind on it. And I can definitely use some of these shades for an everyday look, and I will continue to use it a lot, but it's not as easy to work with as I thought it would be, maybe. And I use the retro palette a lot more than I thought, and more than this actually, I think. But I do like to use them together as well. This is my favorite shade in here, I think, Mia. It's such a nice, very light pink shimmer. Yeah, I do like this palette. But I also like the Magic palette from Juvia's Place. And this is a whole other vibe, isn't it? So we have a very colorful palette up against a very neutral palette. So how do you actually rank these when both have good formulas? I mean, I could use this on a daily basis, but this one I can use as a face palette with some blushes, a bronzer here. Like, I could use both of these on a regular basis, I feel like. However, I feel like it would be easier to use this one. Also, it's newer, so it's not as old as this one, but you know, I can't really have that in my ranking, right? I have to rank the palettes in themselves for what they are. And yeah, I'm a lot more inspired by this one, actually. I don't know, like, maybe it's because I've used this so much in the past and this one is new. Maybe that's why I feel like I'm more inspired by this one, because it's new. But yeah, I don't feel like all of these go well on me. So I'm going to go with the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette for this round, and the Magic palette is rolling out. So that was it for today. The winners of this round was the I Need a Nude palette from Natasha Denona, the Christmas Eve palette from Odin's Eye, the Honey Dream palette from ZZ, the Snow Dream palette from Odin's Eye, two ZZ palettes, the Scarab and the Papyrus. The Papyrus palette, yeah. The Retro palette from Natasha Denona. We have a lot from the same brands. Maybe it's because they do, you know, good formulas. But we did roll out a P. Louise palette and an Odin's Eye palette. So it's not just that I like the brand. We have from Revolution the Candy Haze palette. We have the Blend Away 2022 palette from P. Louise. And we have a ZZ palette in, what's this called? It's the Royal Bloom palette. So those ones are staying in for the next round. And this was part one. I will have, I think, 4 or 5 rounds. Not rounds, but parts, because these are just, you know, a few of my palettes. So we needed to do this in parts. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was so much fun to actually, oh, we have thunder. Nice. I really like that. I think it's very cozy. Anyway, I thought this was a good idea to do this eyeshadow palette battle. I am reminded by what I have. I'm reminded by all of the beautiful palettes that I have and that I want to use again. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So stay tuned for the next part, which might be next week. I don't know if I will only do this series this month, since I am getting married and stuff when you see this. So maybe this will just be what I do this month. We'll see. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and that I'll see you in the next video. Have a great evening. Bye!